Dr. Reese, would you take attendance, please?
President D'Alessandro.
Here.
Vice President Schaefer. Here. Secretary Reese here. Treasurer Hansard.
Present.
Trustee McDonough.
Here.
Trustee Summers.
Here.
Trustee Whitney.
Here.
Thank you. Any changes to the board agenda? None? Okay. We have some presentations, school presentations, and it's that time of year where we have a list of retirees. There he is. Ryan Reed
Yes.
is going to tell us who they are.
Superintendent Reed will present them, and you and I.
Hey, good evening, Board of Education, community, family, and friends. I'm Ryan Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. It is my honor to be here tonight to celebrate the retirement of these dedicated members of our school community. The individuals we're honoring...
Can I restart that?
Sure, okay. Let's try this again. Good evening, Board of Education, community, family, and friends. I'm Ryan Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. It is my honor to be here tonight to celebrate the retirement of these dedicated members of our school community. The individuals we're honoring this evening have contributed in meaningful ways across our district for many years. Thank you all for your service to our students, staff, and community. Now, Vicki and Dan, if you could please join us at the front. Retirees, when I call your name, please join us in the front of the room. Jennifer Crotto. Mark Hillebrand. Annalise McCowan. David Pass. Ron Roop. Congratulations to you all on your retirement, and may your next stage of life be full of possibilities and exploration.
It almost got me. Well, you're more than welcome to stay, but after 30-some years and more than, I'm sure you want to go separate. Thank you all again for your dedication to our district.
Thank you,
It's,
thank you,
much
thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks. See you, David.
Okay. Item B, Oxford Robotics Program.
Shannon Schaefer, all those brilliant students in the back of the room.
Okay.
This is going to be really exciting.
It is.
It is really exciting. I took a sneak preview.
You want to put it here?
Do you want to put them right up here?
Yeah.
Whoa. I'll put your stuff over here if you want me to.
Please.
I'll give it back to you.
All right. Hi, I'm Shannon Schaefer. I am the elementary robotics coordinator for the DK through 5th grade.
This is an amazing program I have been a part of for 11 years. We have some of our FLL students up here. First, we have our FLL Explorer. Mia Schaefer will talk about her program and talk about her the board that they built for their team this year. And then we've got Ella Schaefer and Roman Rigney who are going to talk about their robots that they built for FLL Challenge. Go ahead, Mia.
My name is Mia. This is the board we built for WeDo, and 3 of these things go on power. This one spins. This one goes up and then down, and then this one.
Wow. Yeah, very nice. Very nice, very cool.
And then I built this water fountain because I thought it would be a good idea to build a water fountain because it was like a city. And then this is the food court, mini food court. This is a cop chasing after someone stealing Mona Lisa, like this. And then this is a show. That's a campfire. And then that's a public swimming pool.
Lots of detail. Wow.
I love it.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
that's very nice.
Very good.
And then we have a slide too.
Okay.
Very good.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
How long did it take you to build this?
A couple of weeks.
You got me probably by a week. At least a week. I've taken 3 or 4 myself. It's very nice.
Very good.
Good job, honey.
Very good.
So, for when we did it, this is my robot, and me and my team built it for the attachment. And this one, there are 4 little things for this, for the program that we did. There was a challenge, and we had to go to a competition, and we had to do a bunch of mini challenges, and for it, you would have to make attachments, and so that it would be able to actually function it. So me and my team made this, and it goes down and pulls something, and it goes back up.
Great. Wonderful.
Me and my team made this robot where there was this grabber thing and this thing you had to pull. So, and this top attachment thing, but
Is that the
it's
grabber
supposed
part?
to grab it and pull it back, and something comes out and lands in some little compartment. And then this one pulls something, and then it's supposed to put something up here.
So it puts this up here.
It falls and we put it up there.
Ah,
Great.
those
Very
are
good.
pretty nice wheels you have on both of these.
Yeah.
And they move with this power?
Yep.
Very
From
good.
this robot, it comes all the way through.
Very nice.
Very
Terrific.
nice job, Rowan.
Wow.
Very good job.
At the FLL Explorer level, which is DK through 3rd grade, we this year had 32 teams across the district with 187 students participating. That is also including OVA. And at the FLL Challenge level, which is 4th and 5th grade, we had 6 teams with 57 students participating. So it's definitely grown over the past few years since COVID affected it. Like I said, it's an amazing program, and we're actually running a Lego camp this summer at OES, so that'll be a lot of fun. So next, I'm going to invite Mary Bach up to come talk about the FTC middle school teams.
Thank you, Shannon. Again, my name is Mary Bach. I'm one of the coaches of the middle school program, which is FTC, First Tech Challenge. It builds upon what the kids in the younger grades have done. Instead of Legos, though, they're getting into actual parts and motors, and they start by catting the robots. And we also do a lot of 3D printing. There's a lot more programming involved at this level. This year we had 3 teams. All 3 teams made it to states. All 3 made it to the finals in their divisions and in the state finals, which is amazing. We have just closed our application for next year's season, and we are expanding to 4 teams because we have so much more interest. It's a great program, like Shannon says. It just builds on it, and for these kids who have any STEM interest, it really hits the mark. The biggest thing that I love is it pushes these kids out of their comfort zone. I'm nervous right now, but these kids have to do it the same. They have to speak for 10 minutes in front of adults they don't know. And like me as an adult, I struggle with that. And for them to do it at the middle school level is really, really amazing. So they'll show you their robot now. Who wants to explain the challenge? Ryan, talk to them, tell them what the
Push the green button.
So this year's challenge, we had with these yellow poles that range from being like around this tall, then to this tall. That we had to make these robots to put these colored cones on those poles. And we also had another type of scoring element was with this another type which you had to make a custom beacon of what they called it that we could pick up. So.
Is that your team number on the side, on both of them?
Yeah, so 5291 is Tower, which I'm a part of, but there's also 14739, which is Metal Benders. Yeah.
And we also have a 3rd team, Cybercats, which I believe they came at a previous meeting.
Yes. Very nice.
Very cool.
What are
Thank you.
what are the wheels made out of? It looks like they're gripping a little
So
bit.
the wheels are these special kind of wheels that are called Ami wheels. And what they do is, so they have these rollers on the sides, so you can move it so it's straight. So they can move side to side without having to go
That's
forward.
right, yeah. That's very good. Now, I said it might take me 3 to 4 weeks on this one. There's no chance on any of those. I'm just,
We have, I think it's 3-ish months that we have to.
We have about 8 weeks from the time the game's released to the first competition. So these kids put in a lot of hours to get ready. And even at that point, it's not always ready or doesn't work how we want it to.
So we have 2 competitions to make it to states. You can make it to states by making it and the final alliance and winning by playing in the game. Or there's another thing, a trophy called the Inspire Award. And so that Inspire Award it's like basically of awarding who has the most outreach. And outreach is stuff like this, like coming out to these events and telling about what we do and who has the best of it.
that is great.
Good job. You did a very good job. Very good.
Very
All
good.
right, I'm going to pass the mic over to Ian from FRC.
Oh, God. Like, it's not your father's liquor. No.
Hi, I'm Ian Houston.
Lincoln Logs.
Hi, I'm Ian Houston. I'm the coach for the high school robotics team, along with our teacher advisor, Craig Trombley, who's back there. And I brought a handful of our students tonight to talk to you about our season and our team. Interesting to know, most of these students were in FLL. All of them were in FTC as they grew up through the ranks here in Oxford and then joined our high school team. This year we had 9 seniors graduate who are going on to college, all majoring in STEM degrees, all with pretty good scholarships along the way.
One of which was valedictorian, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And there was actually 3 of them competing to be valedictorian this year. It was a constant drama in the room. No, just kidding. Replacing them, actually, we also have, the current count is up to 11 incoming freshmen, all coming from FTC for this next season. And we're starting our summer program actually tomorrow night at the high school with those students. So with that, I'm actually going to let them do most of the talking about their robot and what they did this season.
So throughout our season, we usually split it up into 2 components. We have competitions, and then we also do outreach and other activities. We feed a lot into our community, and we support our FLL, FTC teams a lot. And through that, we help support and gain interest in robotics to other students in the district. And then we also obviously compete with our robot, which you unfortunately could not have here tonight because of the rain. It does not like rain.
It's much bigger. It's a 28 by 28 inch robot. It takes 2 high schoolers or mentors to lift it. So.
Yeah. And every year we have a different challenge we need to complete and compete for through First Robotics. And Sammy, do you want to explain more about this current competition?
Yeah, okay, so this year our challenge, I'll just start off by saying each year there's one thing that kind of stays the same, and that is that your team is working with 2 other teams during the match, and you're against 3 other teams. And those teams are randomized, and like you could be with one team in one match and then against them in the next match. So there's that kind of element of cooperation in there too, where you're competing and still working together. And then this year, our challenge was we had to pick up these yellow cones, kind of like you'd see, like you use in gym class almost, these yellow rubber cones, and then these purple inflatable cubes. They're almost like beach balls, but with corners. So we had to pick those up, and we had to score them. There was 3 different levels, and the higher up you could get them, the more points it would earn. So we had to try to score those. And then at the end, there was this big tippy balance platform. We had to try to drive the robot up on there and get balanced for additional points.
Wow. Through the 2 competitions we went to, unfortunately, we did not make it to states. However, we were in the top 6 teams in both of our competitions. Overall, First really focused on, and our team really focuses on, again, cooperation or working with others. And like we've seen a lot through our outreach. We've done things through the OES summer camps, and we've also volunteered at in-district and out-of-district events primarily with younger students. And it just helps share with some education with people around us.
Very good. Good.
And they gave you a flyer to pass around with some pictures of what they did, as well as a picture of all the Oxford Robotics students.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Very good. I would just like to add a thank you to these high school students, because without their mentorship of all the young kids, we wouldn't be seeing that young program grow as much as it is. So thank you, high schoolers, for passing it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, item 4, scheduled public comment for agenda items. We do not have any. Okay, we have item 5, our consent agenda, which is the minutes of May 23rd, bills payable, foreign language program, and our 22-23 staff retirements. Can I have a motion, please? Mary?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there support? Support Amanda. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, Superintendent's Report.
I have two reports for you tonight. One will come to you around our government community partnerships that we have with Mr. Barless, and then after that, we'll hear from our recovery coordinator, Mrs. Oni. So, start here.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. I am excited to bring to you an overview of our government and community outreach, which is one of the 5 strategies in our recovery plan that we developed last summer. I've got to say that probably our work with our community and government partners is one of the most exciting things I get to do. When we come together, Ms. Jamie Ayers, the director of the Resiliency Center, hosts our strategic planning with our government and community partners. And we meet over at the Resiliency Center. And it is wonderful to be able to sit down with not only first responders, village supervisors, but those mental health professionals that are providing services in our community, and really some of our places of worship in the community have joined us, and really be able to sit and identify what some of the needs are and some of the celebrations are. So with that, just referencing the 3-year recovery plan, the life cycle where we're at there as we progress through that recovery plan. This was included in the board packet. I did want to reference the community and government outreach components of our strategic area, which includes 3 separate goals. The one goal is specific to our partnerships, and we list partnering with Easter Seals, which we are thrilled to have a clinician who is both at the high school and the middle school serving our students. And actually, we were able to fill his caseload to capacity probably around December. And we intend to have a second clinician. Easter Seals has agreed that they will be adding an additional clinician for the 23-24 school year in order to continue to meet our student needs. Our partnership with the Resiliency Center I just referenced, and we continue to grow that, as well as our school resource officers and some of the other organizations that are part of our community and government outreach. We have done a number of different parent and student education workshops. Many of our community partners have been able to assist us with that, as well as the district itself. Our SEL leadership team is implementing summer activities, which will also address this particular goal in this strategy. We've grown our SEL offerings in the summer to include actual SEL lessons that target the 5 core competencies in the afternoons of our summer school programming this year, as well as Wednesday afternoon community-based activities. And then our third goal is really involving stakeholders in committees in order to help guide district decisions and identify some of our measurables overall. And although we won't be addressing a lot of that this evening, we do have our committees that have staff, student, and parent representation on those. Some of those committees include the SEL committee, the mental health committee, as well as our school safety committee. This is a list of some of our partners and some of the government outreach that we've done. It is a wonderful list. The one thing that I'd like to reference is that we had our last meeting yesterday, and Journey Lutheran Church attends regularly, and they have a reimbursement program that partners with our community in order to assist with co-pays. Since last December, they have provided almost $140,000 in reimbursement to families in our community that have sought out services, and they've been able to assist them with reimbursement for some of those co-pays and services. An amazing partner in our community. So with that, we have the privilege to have two of our partners actually do a brief presentation this evening. One is North Oakland Community Coalition. So Tanya Hamilton is going to come up and share briefly about our partnership and what they do. And then we'll have Ms. Jamie Ayers after Tanya share about the Resiliency Center and the many things that they do for us as well. Welcome, Tanya.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here this evening. I've been really excited to talk with all of you because we've had some great opportunities to be at the high school this year working with your students, and we just think that they're amazing. So I'm excited to tell you about what we've been doing and even share some fun photos with you. The North Oakland Community Coalition, we're a nonprofit organization. We're actually located a little south of here in Lake Orion, but we serve both the Lake Orion and Oxford communities, and our goal is to support the young people in our community and families to reduce youth substance use and build mental wellness initiatives that just create a stronger and more resilient community. So since the beginning of this school year, we've had the opportunity to work with Todd and Mrs. Zoni, Laura, on some partnerships with the students. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what we've been doing in the schools this year. We started out the year with our No Vape November campaign, and we hope that by next fall, you all not only know it, but you're wearing the t-shirts. We work with students on understanding the dangers of vaping. We did a little underage drinking campaign with them this year, which we also plan to grow next year. We worked on some marijuana prevention, but we really focused on some suicide prevention strategies. So we realized that at the beginning of this year, very few students knew about the 988 crisis hotline. A big reason for that is because it was new as of July of last summer. So we came in at the beginning of the year with some big boards that we had printed. We did a photo campaign. And we really want to make sure that all the students know about that as a resource. But in order to really use it, we know that the students need to be connected to one another. So this fall, we plan to roll out a campaign that we're calling It's All About Connection. And so what we're hoping to do is really build the connection that students have with one another, with their families, with the staff here at the school, so that we all know what to look for, signs of need, and know when to make that call or when to help someone seek help. We also offer QPR suicide prevention trainings. They're 90-minute trainings that really help people understand, students and adults, understand the signs of suicide or mental health distress and how to help them seek support. And so that's what we've been doing as of lately. What we're really excited to announce is that we are going to be working on developing a youth advisory council. So through the school year, every time we would visit, we ended up realizing that students were coming up to us and they were asking, you know, could I help at this table next time? Or could I volunteer? Or they were asking questions about what we do and really engaging in some good conversations. So we thought, you know, this is really a time to get some students together and help them do this work and support their own peers. So we are going to be working this summer to gather students and hopefully in the fall have a robust youth advisory council who will be helping us plan all of these initiatives next year. We also partner with the community on the suicide prevention trainings that I mentioned. We run prescription and drug take-back days. We partner with our law enforcement on that. Excuse me. We do community education and parent education around youth alcohol use, marijuana use, and nicotine use. We offer free marijuana lockbox distribution. So if anybody wants one, we give it to them, no questions asked. We want to reduce youth access to substances in the home. And then we also will work throughout the community on that It's All About Connection campaign and making sure the entire community knows about 988 as a resource. And I'd like you to know that we don't do this, it's not willy-nilly what we do. We don't just walk into schools and tell kids they shouldn't vape. We use what is called the Strategic Prevention Framework, which is the prevention model that is used by SAMHSA and federal agencies. So we go through all 5 steps of this prevention framework in our work. We look at the needs that exist. We use data for this process. We build capacity, so building that youth advisory council will be a big part of building that capacity here in the high school. then we make plans, and the students will be a part of that planning. We will build the campaigns that they know will best help their peers. Then we'll implement them, and we will evaluate them, continually evaluate them to making sure that they're working and that they're meeting needs as the needs change. And then we just keep going. So this was the 90-day campaign that we ran toward the beginning of the school year. And we ran it again just recently. We actually ran it all year long, honestly. It was part of everything we did this year. But we did it in the fall, and then we had Anthony Grappito in to speak at the end of May 31st. He came in and gave a great presentation in the Performing Arts Center at the high school. He is a local presenter, but he also presents nationally. He's really nationally known, and he gives a great talk about his struggles with mental health issues, and he's a magician, so he uses magic to infuse magic into his message.
That's very good.
And those are just more pictures from working with Anthony. We also had him come in a couple of days at the high school and just have some fun with students. He performed magic at their lunch tables and engaged with them, and it was a fun day to just see everybody laugh and have a good time. And because they enjoyed it so much, we also invited him to come to the staff appreciation breakfast during Staff Appreciation Week, and the teachers and staff loved it too. These are pictures of some of our substance prevention visits. So you'll see on the far left, that's one of our No Vape November displays where we talk to the students about the chemicals that are found in vape liquids, so they're educated on that. Let me see. The board that they're working on here, if you're ever at the high school, it's now up in front of the media center there, but it's an All About Connection piece of art that they all had a part in creating together. And then this was actually a 6-week program that we ran where we came in every week and we talked about the different senses. So for every week for 6 weeks, we came in with a different message around how you can use each sense of, your sense of taste, your sense of smell, to help control your emotions. And so, for instance, when we talked about the sense of smell, we had different candles in all of the jars, and you can see a picture of a couple of girls holding the jar up to their nose. And we asked them each time we came, how do you feel? What makes you feel a little antsy? What makes you feel calm? And we helped them compare their senses to their feelings so that they can go home with some tips on how they could maybe ease their anxiety or stress when they're home. And that is about it. Thank you for having me. Do you have any questions? No?
Anybody have questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
thank
thank
you.
Thank you, Tanya. So next we've got Jamie Ersch with the All for Oxford Resiliency Center, and Kelly, her wonderful assistant. Do you need me to do the slides, or is Kelly?
Is it just these? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us here at the Board of Education meeting. We're thrilled to be in front of you and talk about the Resiliency Center, and we're honored to be in the community and helping support recovery. So at All for Oxford, we are here. It's a federally funded program. We focus on the recovery efforts from the tragedy in November of 21. And these are a couple of the services that we provide. What I do want you to know is that the center is for the Oxford community and the programs are driven by the Oxford community. And so we base our programs on our partnerships with the high school, and we also build our programming based on the community needs, trends that we're seeing, or things that we see in the future. And we work really hard to make sure that if someone has a suggestion or there's concerns in the community, that we're trying to meet that need to the best of our ability. So a couple of things we do, we have drop-in activities because the center is open, it's Oxford Center, and so we always want it to be available at any time for people to come in. So we do Therapy Dog Thursdays, and we partner with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. We have arts and crafts that are always available, so if someone just wants to come in and they need a safe space, they are welcome to our large cupboards filled with all the things. And then we also offer students can come in at any time and use our space to study or get together with their friends. We have some students who bring, their mentors or mentees from other organizations like 42 Strong, and that's always available. In the fall, we had homework and hangout, and we provided pizza, and the kids could study, and that's something that we'll probably do again this fall. And we do have students that come in and, during exam times and utilize our service. Some of the other things that we do are event workshops, so it's education on a variety of different topics, and it's usually based on what the community is experiencing at that time, or we'll also base it on trends that we're seeing, people coming through the center, or some things that we might be coordinating with the high school. We have a creativity studio, which is done with a mindfulness coach, and she also does mindfulness sessions, and we offer support groups. And we develop our support groups based on the needs that we're seeing in the community. We also have one-on-one support. So we have our victim navigators, which Kelly is a victim navigator. And what happens is the victim navigators are the first touch point for people who come into the center. And the navigators talk with them, they're crisis trained and trauma informed, and they listen to people and their stories, and they help navigate what resource is appropriate for them depending on their circumstances. And from there, they might be referred to a support group, they might be referred to another activity we do in the center, or they might be referred to therapy. And so we have 2 full-time clinicians in our center at this time. We also have an EMDR therapist, and then we are just now working on a yoga instructor who's trauma-informed, because that's one of our consistently asked for programs. So we're going to start that very shortly. I'm happy to report that we do not have a wait list. I know that's been kind of out there in the community, but at this time, and things can change really quickly, but at this time we do not have a wait list. So people can come in, meet with a navigator, and if therapy is appropriate for them, we can get them in touch with those services. Can you go back just one second? Sorry. What I do want to let you know, and the community might not be aware, is all the services that we provide at the center are free of charge. So, and that includes individual therapy, family therapy, and the support groups, and all of our activities. So those are free of charge. Thanks, Todd. I always want to introduce Wiley, who is our canine advocate. She was donated to us through the Canine Advocacy Program, and those canines are usually, they work with victims of crime through the court system. And we put in a nice ask for, this would be a perfect opportunity for one of their dogs to work with our victims in our center. And so she is Employee of the Month every single month. She's the number one thing that people want to see. She's there every single day. And so she actually has a schedule too. So if people want to come in and spend time with her before or after their appointments, or just want to come in and spend time, they can actually call the center and we can book time with Wiley. So we're happy to have her with us. She's booked, but the center's not. Right. Yeah. Wiley might have a wait list. And so we work in tandem. So with the Oakland County Comfort Dogs, they're there every Thursday, but Wiley is there every single day and available to support those who come into our center. We do want to plug our Smash event, which is tomorrow. And what it is people who, you can sign up with their QR code. You can visit our website and our Facebook page, but we often get asked about rage rooms or can I just break stuff? And so we're working in partnership with TTI, and we have dishes and plates and cups where people can write their feelings and emotions or whatever. They can draw a picture and they can smash it. They don't have to smash it either. So if you design something and you want to keep it, that's fine too. But we'll have food and desserts, and we'll have the dogs with us. And then really we want to encourage people to come in and see the center. Because it really is, the number one thing we hear is this is different than what I expected. It's very warm and comforting, and it's open to everybody, and we want them to come in and utilize our service. So these are we did a survey with the district staff and wanted to know their feedback on what we could do to support them, what they liked if they visited the center, or what they would like to see if they haven't visited the center. And so we have some staff-only events that are scheduled. We have an open house next Wednesday where they can come in, see the center. We're going to have door prizes and chair massages and mindfulness. And it's going to be a really just nice day and letting us treat them. And then we have a wellness day scheduled in July and then another one in August to help them get ready to go back to school. And so this is, again, free of charge, and it's staff only for the district. And then that's our social media. Did I forget anything, Kelly? Okay. Thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be able to talk about the center. We want people to come in. We encourage them to come in. And if there's something that they would like to see in the center, we want that feedback. And if there's something that they don't like with the center, we also want that feedback. Because this is Oxford Center. It's not our center, it's their center. So if you ever have any need, and we're here to support everyone in the district and community members, and that includes all of you and all of the staff in the district. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Anybody with a question? Amanda?
Just more so a comment. I just really want to thank you and Tanya. I've seen both of your organizations and teams in action in Oxford, and it's just beyond incredible. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So I do thank both Tanya and Jamie for presenting tonight. I will say that our community partners are amazing. I could have stood up probably another 3 or 4 easily tonight, and they would love to be here. So we've got Easter Seals that would like to present. We've got a number of different partners that would just love to be able to share how they're engaged in supporting our community. So we're truly fortunate through our government and community outreach. With that, I'm going to pull up Mrs. Zoni's presentation, and you can come up.
Good evening. My name is Laura Azzoni, and I'm the District Recovery Coordinator. I haven't met all of you directly yet, and so even though I've been working well over a year now in this position, I'm really grateful to see you and to be spending time with you and to be communicating tonight from the perspective of recovery. And because it's my first time, I do want to start by just explaining my role a little bit and what I do, because I always hear, what is a recovery coordinator? And so I will be kind of going through and describing a little bit of all the pieces that go together with recovery on my end. It would feel inauthentic to me, since this is my first time addressing the board, to be here in a position in response to tragedy and not acknowledge it and communicate my authentic, sincere condolences for the tragedy on November 30th of 21. I am just so sorry that you even have to have a recovery coordinator. It is not lost on me that no one should have to have this position within their district. And that being said, if you have to have one, I'm very grateful that it gets to be me. A brief introduction is also, I want it to be purposeful because I want you to know why I'm here, since I haven't talked to you all directly, and the community at large. This wasn't just a random position that I accepted, and this wasn't, a step in building my career. I have a private practice in Metro Detroit, and I was one of the trauma therapists that was responding to the tragedy initially. And so when this position became available, I was somewhat coordinating services for families already. And so some families were sending me the position. Do you know anyone? Would you ever consider this? And I had been listening to this audiobook called The Next Right Thing, and everything just started really coming together for me. This position is part of my purpose. I truly believe that. It's a calling to me, as well as a professional time that I get to learn and glean from all the amazing people in this community. I want you to also know that the depth of this position to me is multifaceted. I included some non-identifying, of course, little cards that some of the kids I was treating before accepting this position had asked me to take with them. One of them says, "You're my favorite adult," which is high praise, but then more importantly it says, "I'll see you when I'm 11," because he was 8 at the time, and he knew that I was accepting what was starting as a 3-year position, and he thought that I was immediately going to come right back to him after. So I want the community to know that not only was I considering this position in recovery, but other children were contemplating this position in recovery. And typically, as a trauma therapist, when you make a change in your position, you are letting people down. And I want the community to know that I didn't come across one child or teen or parent that wasn't in full support of this transition and didn't already love you guys as I was learning to love you. With that, I just want to reference the fact that I'm fully aware that trauma response doesn't stop at the initial event. And so it's not new to this community that trauma touches trauma, and there are often many ripple effects to trauma. And so when we have experiences like Uvalde, which happened before my joining the district, or we've lost some children in this community at the elementary level, at the high school level. We've had some employees that we've lost, and that happens in every district. But for us, it's really touched on a lot of grief and loss. And so referencing Michigan State here, I want everyone to know that while I'm responding to November 30th and 21, I'm here to support all of it, because I know that crisis follows crisis. And I always want to be looking at the micro level and the macro level of what everyone is experiencing. With that, I want to show briefly how recovery fits. There's already so many systems for our students in place throughout the district. Of course, we have other coordinators besides myself. There's the MTSS coordinator. We have PBIS processes and systems in place. Restorative practices is amazing. And what I want to explain is that all of these processes work best when integrated together. And so trauma is no different. When this tragedy that your community experienced prior to my joining came right after COVID, which makes this experience of mass violence very different. And we already probably needed to implement more trauma-informed care across all school systems. And so this is just a good image to show how it can all work together. So I hope that what my role in recovery brings and my training in trauma-informed care brings is kind of that ice cream cone support, that foundational level of trauma-informed care right where we're starting across all levels, across all ages in the district, while all the other systems kind of swirl together. And then of course there's that cherry on top, trauma intervention for the students and staff who truly, truly may need some support connecting with more in-depth interventions. The first part of my role over the last year, and this would be the same with any trauma response, is that you really want to get back to basics. So these graphics are from a PD I did for all the elementary staff in the district in October. And all of our teachers think so much, they use their heads, they use their hearts, and oftentimes we get stuck. Trauma can confuse us, and so we can kind of start to lose creativity. And a way that I offered a memory acronym is to think about what is between our heads and our hearts. It's our necks. And so that acronym NEX, without the K, stands for nurture, engagement, challenge, and structure. And these are the things that we can almost always fall back to when we're unsure of what to do. With a challenging student, with relational complexities with our coworkers, we can pretty much always look to these foundational needs in almost every human and see where might there be some gaps that we're overlooking because we're so busy even in serving with our heads and our hearts. I won't talk much about community partners because we just had a huge presentation on them, but I do believe that not enough could ever be said about them. And the two that we highlighted tonight, I just wanted to say that I've been witnessing these community partnerships, as it's part of my job to coordinate with them in recovery. And when Anthony Grappito was in our cafeteria, I would try to introduce him, and I couldn't even see him because so many students were surrounded by his skills in performing. And then I think Jamie referenced this, but what the kids I work with will tell you about the Resiliency Center is that they have the best snacks. So I asked Jamie if I could take pictures of her fridge and everything, because when I see kids coming in a little late because they've had an appointment at the Resiliency Center, I can always tell how supported they were based on the overflow of mini Oreos in their pockets. So they really are amazing partners, and we could go on and on about them. The best way to learn is to experience them. One of my main roles too, one of the things that I've kind of taken on that is a natural fit for me, is helping not only our students and families, but our staff with the overwhelming process that it takes to receive therapy referrals and reimbursements. That's something that I've kind of been in that world for a while prior to my joining. It comes a little naturally to me. It blends with community partnerships. We couldn't do it alone. And the staff is probably getting real tired of my reminder emails on how to do it. But sometimes you're just not in a place to hear, or you don't think you need it one day and you might another day. And so this is like a final call before summer to email me if you want help with it, because I will still help. And it can happen easily, and it's deserved. I also won't spend a lot of time on this, but part of my role is managing the Oxford Wildcat Pack. And you heard from our lead district handler, Caitlin Malberg, a few meetings ago, or maybe a couple meetings ago. She did an amazing job. When I first started in this role, I had taken over management from our special education director, Pam Beal. And Todd Barless would joke with me, did you know that so much of your time would be like buying dog food? And I really did not. There's some special divas in this pack, but they're all worth it. They're amazing supports to our kids. And one thing I always do share is that I can bring all my clinical skills, my certification, my everything to a room sometimes. And when I'm at the high school and there's a kid who's dysregulated, I can be pulling out all the stops to help support them, and then a dog walks in and I swear I'm not even needed. So these animals are an amazing gift to our community, and I know that our community really is what made it happen. So another big part of my role, which is not common in other districts, is I really link arms with a lot of other people across the district, social workers, admin, staff members, to facilitate and start thinking about and planning and preparing for our Wildcat Remembrance Days. And we had our first one this year in 22. And I could go on and on about this as well, but what I will say is I am so grateful, impressed by the counterintuitiveness it took to really model grief and loss in a less is more kind of way. And it was very tempting to do a huge event in response to this anniversary, which has brought so much tragedy. And I think that we created the space, and I hope that we created the space for people to be met where they are and to be able to take a day to do what was needed. We had a moment of silence at 12:51 that day across the community, again partnering with the Resiliency Center. Over 22,000 luminaries were picked up or distributed for people in and outside of our community. And it was a way to connect with honoring that space that might be needed individually and collectively. It was amazing to witness, and I was so honored to walk alongside. And our high schoolers did an incredible job of lighting up the high school. We had so many donations of lights, and they really brought light into darkness. Kids were just saying, I'm so happy. I love hot cocoa. The band came through and played Christmas music, and it was just really comforting when they all got to miss their friends and bring some light into their space of learning. Two mental health things I want to bring to your attention that we've implemented since my joining the district, or that we're about to. One is an intervention known as CBITS called Cognitive Behavioral Intervention for Trauma in Schools. There's a lot of data here, and if you have the slides, I did link it so that you can go to the site and read as much as you would like. But we had our first pilot group this past spring, winter semester, and what I'd like to draw your attention to that pertains to our experience so far is that our beginning working data from the first pilot group of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders brought us an 83% reduction of clinically significant subcategories, and those subcategories were symptoms of underreporting or hyperreporting, which can be really common in trauma responses, anxiety, depression, anger, post-traumatic stress, and there was 100% of no increase in symptoms from that first pilot group. So this is an intervention that we're going to be bringing in. Students are selected from SABRS data. They can always opt out. Parents never have to participate. It's just another intervention with that cherry on top that I referenced before that can be offered to our kids within the places that they're already in as needed, and collectively as a group that's supplemental to individual therapy as needed as well. The other intervention that I want to draw to your attention, which you also can click and research as much as you would like, is called trust-based relational. It's called a trust-based relational intervention. It's referred to as TBRI. This is something that the principal at Lakeville has already kind of started looking into for some of our kids who it would greatly benefit. I love this intervention because, first of all, the statistics, which I'll reference in a second, are really promising, and what my favorite thing is that it really can be used with almost any student. It kind of it can be used like in schools, at home. Parents can have the same language, teachers can have the same language, adults can talk to adults with the same language, and it really is it really has a large foundation of understanding of trauma. But it's also wonderful for kids who don't have trauma history. And so it brings a little bit of a universal approach to being trauma informed within the classroom and outside. What I'd like to draw your attention to here specifically, which we hope to grow this, and it can be an intervention district-wide, is that there's lots of statistics and data that I put up, but the one I want to draw your attention to is there were 902 children studied who had this intervention taking place, and it went from 902 disruptive behaviors being reported to the office during the school day to 59, which was a 93.5% decrease in disruptive behavior after just the first 2 years of implementation. So as we grow with this, it has some promising results that are hopefully gentle and kind, which is one of the coined phrases in the intervention. The last thing that I want to point to is I've offered this with the kit, some of the highly impacted students and families and staff that I've worked with, this idea of both and. My coworkers kind of joke with me about it because I constantly say both and, but I want to offer it to you as the Board of Education as well as our community at large. These are some of the most amazing moments that I was able to gather to show you glimpses of, and none of them were done separate from grief and loss. And so one of the things that I talk to our students about is this idea of you can go to homecoming and miss your friends. You don't have to pick. And when we experience trauma, we often are stuck in ambivalence. Our kids really start to describe that. They feel like they have to pick, and they kind of freeze. And so one thing we've been working on together as a community is this idea of how do we do both, because both are okay. And so the High School Musical alone this year was amazing, and none of those kids were apart from loss, and they were able to use their skills. And so this is something that we're striving for, is this concept of both and in recovery, and how to do it well, and how to talk about it when we don't do it so well. And we wouldn't have had these amazing graduations without the concept of both and. So I'm just so proud of every single student who's graduated, and I really can't say enough about the progress and processing that has occurred for these kids to grow and develop into the adults that they're going to be, or some already are. In closing, I'm going to read part of a poem that was shared with me. I know that's unconventional for a Board of Education meeting, but here we go. I thought that you would do your job and then give up on me, but then something in me would make you smile and be worried and laugh and be tender and silly and stern and show tears, tears for me. And I became desperate to know, truly desperate, what was this something in me? What was it? Who was I? You are not a mechanic, you are an explorer. You find treasures where no one else ever looks. That is it. Yes, that is it. I am a treasure to you, though I am so embarrassed to even think that. You knew that from the start. From the start, I was becoming a treasure to you, and your mind and heart continued to know it, though I told you, showed you, screamed to you that you were wrong, and that it was cruel to tell such lies, and push against my hopelessness and rage and worthlessness. And you still knew it, and showed it in your eyes and voice and face, and somehow now do too. I do too. I know it too. Oxford, I just want you to know that you're a treasure to me, and I am so honored and so privileged to be serving you as your recovery coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, were there any questions?
No questions. I just,
No?
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, item 7, Board of Education matters. We have the Oxford Middle School and High School Choir field trip, and then we also have Oxford High School Choir and Dance field trip two requests. They were in board packets. Did anybody have any questions on those that they wanted to discuss? We're good? We have these here, right?
Yeah, and you'll be approving them at the next meeting.
Correct. All right, item 8, curriculum and instructor, Anita and Steve.
We actually have Gary Van Sterven coming up to share a recommendation for new social studies curriculum at the elementary level.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know if you want to start and I can see.
So I'll go ahead and get started. It's nice to speak to you again. I think I spoke to you last year about technology. Remember when I ran up to the front and then I went back and then you called me back up and then I went back? So back and forth. Hopefully this time I'll just be right here. But this year we had, our elementary had a social studies review, curriculum review and pilot started back in the fall. And it was kindergarten through 5th grade. And we had teachers from K through 5, so all grades were represented and all buildings were represented. So it was very important to us to have.
Gary, I don't mean to interrupt, but perhaps our assistant superintendent could let our technology person find the PowerPoint. I love you, Anita, but I know. There.
I was looking for it just in the board book. Yeah, go there. Go ahead. Angela, can you?
Go in the board
Click
books.
right there, the board books.
Yep, click on that.
Yep, and then right there, June 13th, 6:30, go to agenda on the right.
Yep.
Thank you. And then go down and find you, I think we're number 8. And, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Angela. I'll just go from here. You go.
Next time, Angela, you can just find it for both our technology person and our assistant superintendent, then we'll.
Yes, because I am a technology.
Yeah, right.
I'm both the right spot, just kind of.
Gary, I know you're really trying to stay within the time limits that I set, but I'm going to let you start over. We're adding a couple of minutes here.
Okay, sounds good. So yes, we had a social studies, elementary, curriculum review and pilot. And It took all year, and that was very intentional. Sometimes curriculum reviews and pilots might be 2 or 3 months. They might be quick. This was very intentional. It was also intentional to get representation from teachers from kindergarten through 5th grade and also have all buildings represented. So as you can see up there, we first started with investigating different social studies curriculums. What are we going to look at? What have other districts used? So we inquired with other local districts, and these were some that really came out, was InspireEd, McGraw-Hill, Savas, and TCI. So TCI was probably used the most in Oakland County. I would say at least half, maybe more, are using TCI. And so what we did was we ended up narrowing it down, and we had a survey. We also had resources from all 4 of those vendors. And the teachers, we spent 3 hours just going through all the resources. And then we narrowed it down to 2, which was TCI and Savas. And then those are the 2 that we piloted. So then there was more intentionality in that piloting as well, where each teacher piloted 1 unit from Savas and from TCI. So every kindergarten teacher that was part of this, 1st grade teacher, 2nd grade teacher, they did 1 unit of TCI, 1 unit of Savas. And then that way, they could also communicate and collaborate with their colleagues about each of those. Again, being very intentional. So as you can see next, we took some quantitative and some qualitative data. So the quantitative was a survey, 15 questions, that were very specifically looking at was the instruction, was the curriculum differentiated? What were the different resources? Was there Spanish immersion? Did it support maybe struggling readers? Did it support enrichment, our higher level learners? A variety of other questions. And then qualitatively, when we were all done, we got everybody back together again. Well, not everybody. About 75%. There were some that didn't show up. But almost everybody was there, and then we talked about it. We had a discussion, and I was ready for a debate. I was ready to have like a Savas side and then a TCI side, and because the quantitative data was pretty close, was pretty divided. But when we were all together, and we did have teachers from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade, as part of the qualitative part, people unanimously sided with TCI. The reasons why is because, as you can see right there at the bottom, we're an IB district. We're International Baccalaureate, kindergarten through 12th grade. And so inquiry is very important to our district. So TCI is more inquiry-based, all right? Kids are actually engaged. They might be on the floor. They might be under their desks. They might be doing a variety of things. There's also a lot of manipulatives that come with TCI as part of the curriculum that teachers don't have to go out and make on their own. It's part of the program. So it also promotes application of knowledge in real-world settings. Some comments teachers made were the photographs that are in the text from TCI are actual real situations, real world, whereas some of the photos, many of the photos in Savas were not. They might have been cartoons or something like that, caricatures. So they really appreciated that it was real-world knowledge and application. Again, high quality, diverse sources. There's a web-based version. There's web resources. Teachers can make their own assessments, formative and summative assessments. They can create, but then there's also text. So they will be also having text as well. And then interdisciplinary themes. Again, that's important because we're an IB district, so it crosses into reading and into other themes, disciplines, curricular areas. That's what I was thinking of. And then differentiated learning. Okay, so it works. Okay. Yes, and So 3rd grade is going to be just Savas. And the reason why we went with Savas for 3rd and only 3rd is because Savas is the only curriculum that actually wrote a Michigan curriculum. In 3rd grade, it's specific Michigan benchmarks. Used to be in 4th, now it's in 3rd. Savas is the only company that has actually written curriculum for it in Michigan. So that was kind of a no-brainer. And our teachers, they reviewed it and they really did like it and they chose it over TCI. I was curious what SAVIS even stands for, so it's a palindrome. So I'm going to test you. Does anybody know what a palindrome is? Yeah, it's the same, going forward or backwards. So that's SAVIS, and then TCI stands for Teachers Curriculum Institute, and that's going to be the remainder of our grades, K through 2, 4, and 5.
Can I put a question in the middle here since we're talking about this? Yes. So if we're going, so if they're working with the one curriculum through second grade, then they go to third, then they're going back to the fourth grade curriculum,
Yes.
is that going to present any challenges for the students or for teachers going in between the two? Is that going to be smooth transition in and out?
Mary, that's a great question. I wondered the same thing, but uniquely, Michigan in third grade is just a very unique curriculum. So I think that's going to be okay, and you can kind of see right there. We don't really have these resources yet because they're actually still being written and printed. But you can see right there, Michigan's geography, very specific. What about the Michigan economy? So again, it's very granular just about Michigan as opposed to the others. And so getting back to TCI, here's just some other pieces, as I've already mentioned, but it's a little bit more specific here. ELA integration kind of gives you some pictures there of informational text, social studies stories, the unit inquiry projects. There's built-in reading support. It can actually read the text for you. So again, you might have students that might be better where they can hear it auditorily, but also read it at the same time. And again, Spanish and then differentiated instruction. And then many different ways to assess. I mentioned formative, I mentioned summative, I mentioned that teachers can build assessments. But there's also activities, there's also projects. So again, these are all reasons why they chose TCI. And other reasons are these. As you see here on the right, we're a Google district. We have Chromebooks. We use Google Classroom. We use a lot of Google Docs, Sheets, etc. So it integrates with Google Classroom. We're also going to Schoology. We have had Schoology for the past year, and it integrates with Schoology. So you can see that there's many reasons as to why TCI was chosen. Should also let you know that TCI is being used in social studies in 6th grade, and SAVIS is being used in 7th grade. So both of those TCI and SAVIS programs are pretty well respected. I think that is it. I had a video, but I'm going to stick to the time. So, do you have any questions?
Anybody have questions for Gary? You look like maybe you're a little worried he was going to go over time.
Well, we've been having discussions. Not just with Gary, not just with Gary, but all of us have been having
Very
discussions.
good. That's very good.
Well, I think that's fantastic
Yes.
that our staff is so excited that they want to
Yes. Yes.
share even more with us. So I think that's great.
Yes, and I'm very proud of the staff. The teachers, they volunteered to do this. This was out of their time. They worked very hard on finding in their scope and sequence when these units are going to fit, and then collaborating with their colleagues, sharing with their colleagues. Even those that were not in the pilot, they still gave some input. So I'm very proud of them.
Very good.
I had another question.
Yes, Mary. Oh.
Thank you. So if I'm sorry, so everybody, we've got the team working on it together, so everybody's on board. Is this something that, to review the curriculum, is that something that we're just doing on a regular basis? Or did you and the staff say, we can do this better?
Yes, that's a little bit of both. But yes, there is a curriculum review cycle. We are actually working on improving that curriculum review cycle, but there is intentionality behind looking at where different grade levels curriculums are, and then when do we update them.
Now, we had spoken some time ago, I think it was on math programs, how we're moving from the elementary schools into middle school, or was middle school to high school. I'm trying to remember what that conversation was. So we're also looking at how this curriculum is going to integrate into what's happening in 7th grade or 6th grade, right, as they're moving up.
Yes, we are talking about that. Yes, we
Okay.
are. And working with those PLC leaders at the secondary.
Very good.
Very good. Anybody else?
Okay,
Thank you, Gary.
thank you.
Great. Thanks, Gary.
If anybody wants to take a closer look at the curriculum, Anita is getting it all sorted and set up, and so I know Amanda's already asked to take a view at it, and if anybody else wants to, just let us know when you want to come in.
All
And
right.
we'll have a vote in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Item 9, finance and budget, finance and operations. Mr. Barna.
Good evening. Gary, thank you. That was a great presentation, and thanks for hurrying up so I could take a good half an hour at this, so appreciate it.
Aaron, hit the button.
Again, good evening. What I'm going to present to you tonight, very briefly, is the general fund for the final amended budget for this year, 2023, as well as our proposed budget for the general fund in 2024. So I'm just going to go over some very high level. As you can see here, we're going from a final amended budget for this year for the general fund, revenue-wise, of approximately $99.6 million to a proposed budget next year of $103 million. Primary drivers of that are truly an assumption based upon a per pupil increase of $408 per pupil. And so right now we're at $9,150, and so we're projecting a $450 increase. So that is the largest component there of our increase from year over year in revenue. So I just wanted to be very clear on that. There's also some other grants that we are assuming will be doubling in some regard. One of them is Section 97, which is our security grant. We're looking to, we're estimating a doubling of revenue for that next year of approximately $1.6 million. In addition to that safety grant, there's also a mental health grant, which is 31AA, and that is assumed to double as well, according from the information that we have today. So I just wanted you to be aware of why the increase in revenue, and those are the primary drivers of that. Moving on and going down to the expenditure side of the equation, I'll just pan down here. Our total expenditures, again, we're a balanced budget. Primary drivers of our expenses are really just basically our technology and building level expenses that we foresee in the coming year, over and above this year, as well as a transfer to our capital projects fund. We're going to be transferring a little over $600,000 at least. That's our estimate right now. So as of right now, we have a balanced budget for both this year, again, fiscal year 23 in the general fund, as well as, again, a balanced budget for next year, fiscal year 24. We are having a fund balance, as you can see at the bottom here. We have a fund balance estimate this year of 14.3% as a percentage of our overall operating revenue, and we're estimating that we're going to have a percentage of our fund balance of 13.5%, or a little over $13.8 million. So, are there any questions? I know it was a very quick presentation, but you've had a couple of weeks to look over it as well, or at least a couple days, I should say, not a couple weeks. Is there any questions for me?
And I think I'll go ahead and start and talk about a little bit of what the Finance Committee has done through this process, because, a spreadsheet's great, it's kind of ambiguous in all the right ways to make people question. So the Finance Committee has met 3 times through the budget process. The first time we went over revenue, and again, when Sam's talking about grants that we're assuming that are going to increase, we're assuming that because it's legislative. It's not because we think they like us more or any of that, or they have pity for us in any sense of the matter. It is a legislative driven. I think I talked about it maybe 4 or 5 meetings ago, the proposed governor's budget. Right now, it's going through the House and the Senate. It's cleared a couple obstacles. It's not been signed off yet, but once that's done, then we'll see those final numbers come into fruition. But what's positive looking is what they are coming out of their committees and stating. So they are assumptions because they haven't, quote unquote, voted and closed that session from the legislative standpoint, but it is looking positive based on the weekly updates we're getting out of the House and the Senate up in Lansing. So I wanted to clarify that because the word assumption sometimes can be misconstrued as we don't know what we're doing. But seriously, this is, looking very great. The $458 is what governor actually proposed. One committee came back less, one committee came back more. So we're going to stick right at the $458 in our assumptions because say they do vote the higher, then it's a bonus for us. If they vote the lower, then we'll make it up. But I'm pretty positive it's probably going to say right at $458 what she proposed, if not others, based on the briefings we're getting every week from our legislative counterparts. The second meeting, we went over our expenses, including our grants and the outlines of the grants and what can be pushed towards those grants to make sure that all of our accounting and bookkeeping was neat and followed within suit from what was given to us through those grants. And in addition, discuss the grants that we know are going to end. There are going to be some grants that we'll be looking for in the next couple years, and then starting to set out plans similar to what I talked about in our last meeting and how we are going to address those grants when they do dry up and there's not extra revenue coming in. So Dr. Markovich and her ad team have started talking about this. It can feel stressful at times, but we are 2 years ahead of when we are projecting a deficit due to those grants drying up. So that gives us a lot of time to do a lot of planning to prepare for it. The other things, if you notice, if you guys do go into the board packet, there is a 171% variation in one line. We'll just go ahead and point that out. That is the guidepost. We are knowing they will have a report to us before the end of fiscal year 2024, and that we will not be paying them beyond fiscal year 2024 because there will be a report. Other than that, I don't have any other comments unless Mary does.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for that. I want to thank Sam and his team for doing a phenomenal job on answering all of our questions, going through the details that we had questions about in the Finance Committee, as well as at the same time planning out, starting out with our 5-year projections, at the same time as having to get this budget ready, to share with us. I'm confident in the numbers that you've put together and the research that we've done on the income and the expense side. You've really taken a lot of time to make sure that these are good conservative numbers for the district. Thank you for all your hard work, and I love the spreadsheets. Love the spreadsheets. Thanks to your team.
Thank you very much. And again, Dr. Reese and obviously Trustee Hanser and obviously Dr. Markovitz, thank you for your leadership. It was really great to be meeting with you several times. And I also want to say to my team, specifically Courtney Mikowski, who helped me a great deal with this. And she was really integral in this process. So I want to thank her especially. And again, thank you all as well. So if you have any other questions, otherwise, thank you very much.
Anybody?
Make sure you tell Courtney thank you, too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. Safety and School Operations, Dr. Williman.
Do we need to ask for public comment on the budget
Ah,
at this point?
thank you. Yes.
I apologize. I forgot about the public comment component because it is a budget hearing.
Yes. Anybody have public comment for that portion?
Specifically on the budget.
No? Okay. Thank you for pointing that out, Mary. Dr. Williman.
Hello, so my first item is a summary of the guidepost recommendations. You've seen my table. I love a good table if you haven't figured that out yet. But just a summary for the group that's here in the audience. In the threat and suicide risk assessments, there were 7 recommendations from guideposts. Of those recommendations, 4 are already completed. 1 will be completed this summer, and 2 of the recommendations are ongoing. In the second part of the report, which was physical security review, there were 48 recommendations. Of those recommendations, 5 are already completed. 12 will be completed by the conclusion of this summer.
15 by the start of this school year. So when you put that together, the summer and the beginning of the school year, there are 27 of those recommendations that will be completed. 8 of those are current and ongoing, and 8 of those are ones we need to research a little bit more before bringing forward any plans. Does anyone have any questions? This was shared with both our district safety committee and our parent subcommittee during our meetings last week.
All right. Anybody questions for Dr. Leno? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, report,
I was going to say, did we address this on
Oh,
the
we did
agenda?
not. We did
I
not.
think it's missing. It should really come under finance and
Finance, yeah.
operations.
Sam,
And
finance and
it's a
operation.
presentation only. You want me to
Yes.
handle it?
It's
Okay.
the Headley amendment.
So, yeah, we have the operating millage non-homestead only Headley calculation that is put in front of you. Sam, I don't know that you have it in front of you.
I do, actually.
Okay,
yeah,
do you want
thank
to speak to that, please?
Sure, absolutely. So what's in the general fund that we previously discussed in terms of the revenue component is obviously the estimation of our millage for the coming year, starting with the summer tax levy. We are estimating a 17.4324 millage starting again in July for our residents. And again, this is slightly over the millage that was levied, previous, which was 17.2465. And so, in a nutshell, what that translates to the general fund, which is already baked into, again, the estimates that I have for fiscal year '24, is just under $6 million of the total revenue of $103 million for next year. $6 million of that is coming from our local taxpayers, if you will. So that is the direct result of that millage. Okay.
Anybody with questions on that, on the Headley rollbacks? Okay. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right.
Under the guidepost recommendation, we also have a report, an update on report number 2 that's going to be given to us by Mr. Andrew O'Connell, who is president of Guidepost Solutions. And if you recall, the board asked that Guidepost come to us a little more frequently and give us updates on progress with the report. So thank you for being here, Mr. O'Connell.
Good evening. In May of 2022, Guidepost Solutions was retained by the board to investigate the school district's safety and security policies, procedures, and actions before, during, and after the shooting of November 30th, 2021. Since that time, we have reviewed thousands of documents and communications, video, and other relevant materials, and we've interviewed dozens of witnesses. Although not everyone has cooperated with our work, we have been trying to complete the investigation with information from the witnesses, documents, and materials that were made available to us. This includes interviews with board members, the administration, teachers, staff, students, families, community members, and the sheriff's office, along with court filings, deposition transcripts, and hearings from the court cases. We've also received substantial assistance from the prosecutor's office, all in the middle of 2 high-profile, sensitive criminal cases arising out of the shooting. Without that cooperation, our work would have been much more difficult and time-consuming. We will be meeting again with the prosecutor's office this month because there may be additional materials available to us. We will also be meeting this month with the sheriff's office in an effort to obtain additional information. Many victims and survivors and their families, despite unimaginable pain and trauma, met with us. We briefed them on our work, we listened to their concerns, and we received valuable information from them. We have not discussed our specific findings with anyone, including the board. Our findings will be in our reports only, along with a statement of our work. Last month, we issued our first report addressing only the current state of the district's safety and security policies, procedures, and practices. Our final report will address matters leading up to the shooting, and the aftermath. We're in the final stages of our investigation, and most of our time now is writing the final report. We have many areas to cover, and the subject matter is tragic and traumatic. We are working as hard and professionally and efficiently as we can to get our final report done. Outside of writing, we are making last efforts to obtain critical interviews, documents, and materials to fill in gaps that we've determined that we have from the work that we've done. When we have a draft of our final report ready, we will share with the prosecutor any information in the report that comes from the prosecutor. We have an agreement with the prosecutor that we must first obtain the prosecutor's consent to use in our report information obtained from the prosecutor. This does not relate to other information that we obtained during our investigation, but only information that comes from the prosecutor. Our goal is to have a draft final report ready by the end of the summer, to find agreement with the prosecutor on what information we can use from the prosecutor's file, and to issue a final report in the fall at an appropriate time. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. O'Connell? No? Amanda?
So when you say fall, does that mean prior to or after the start of the next school year?
Our goal when we started in the spring, when we started the summer, was to have the report done before the start of school. But there are additional materials that we're trying to get to. If we can get those soon, we may still be able to meet that goal of having a final report before school starts. But understanding that there are some things that we're still trying to get, I want to be cautious about when we can get the report out, but definitely in the fall, if not before school, shortly after school starts.
Okay. And this is just actually more of a comment for the community, for staff, for parents. There is still time to speak to Guidepost. I know that as a district, we've sent out multiple communications to please cooperate. So this is again another plea for anyone to speak with Guidepost. And in fact, I had my meeting with Guidepost this afternoon, and will have to be honest that I wasn't sure how much I could offer, seeing as that I wasn't on the board or involved last year. But I do think that it was valuable. And so for anyone who maybe thinks that they don't have much to offer, I think you do. And we would appreciate everyone to cooperate and reach out to Guidepost who has not.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. O'Connell? Andrew, thanks for coming. I know that you've traveled, and we do appreciate that. We look forward to report number 2, and if there's anything you come up with in the meantime that would be pertinent to the board's knowledge of how things are happening, it would be appreciated to let Dr. Markovich know.
I will. I know folks are anxious for the report. I'm well aware of that. But we've got to get it right. This is really sensitive stuff. People's lives and liberty at stake. And so we're being cautious about what we put in the report and how quickly we're moving through the information that we have.
Okay. Thank you.
So before you leave the podium, Andrew, I just want to make sure that, because as a board, I know there was at one time, let's have them come all the time and give us updates. I just want to make sure that we're clear that we're not expecting that of them, and we're not going to call for that necessarily. He's told us kind of what the timeline is. He's told us why, and the additional collection and writing that he's doing. Is everybody kind of understanding of that? And we just need to
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. If
continue
there's
supporting,
anything,
reaching out if they need to, and let him finish the report.
I mean, if we have anything on timing, I can bring that to you, but I won't be discussing our findings until you see
right.
the report.
Right.
If all of a sudden you get a break with some of the conversations that you have with the prosecutor, and they're good with X, Y, and Z, not that you would share what they're good with, But you would let us know that we've made a substantial movement in that area.
Yeah. Of course.
Or others, just if you could let Dr.
I will
Markovich
do.
know, that would be very helpful, and she could let us know as well.
Yeah, I would still like updates. You said you're waiting on some documents and some information. You know, if you don't receive that and that causes a delay, or if you do receive it and it brings up that timeline, I do think that we should have, at minimum, updates monthly, whether or not it's in person or a written letter.
I think it would be more feasible to have a written letter unless there is something significant that happened that's going to delay or move up the timeline. I think that would be more than appropriate as a letter unless
And
there was something larger.
That is what we agreed to at the last one, that we didn't need them at every single meeting, that written communication was fine. But just to continue to, push the note that, when the report is released, this community is going to need a lot of support because it's going to be a whiplash slingshot back to that day. And I don't know where you were on September 11th. I can tell you exactly where I was standing on November 30th when I got my phone call from my child. That is, everyone is going to drop to that place the minute it's posted. So any indication or delay further or anything that, if you give us a week's notice, at least we can make sure that we have the coalition, the Resiliency Center, people are going to need support. And I know you're not going to share the findings with us, but even if, it says what they think it's going to say or it doesn't think what it's going to say, I can tell you right now, I was a parent that day as well. I can tell you the clothes I was wearing, where I was standing, and I know exactly when Uvalde happened, where I was at, what article I read that made my stomach hit my shoes. So this will do the same thing.
That's very important too, and I think that's something that we as a district need to be prepared for. If it is in the summertime, we need to have those supports, because not all the time, if the report gets dropped, that a parent is with their child, and we have to be prepared for that. And I believe that our team, especially their response to the Michigan State tragedy, they reacted very quickly. So I'm confident that we'll have things in place.
We have had conversations, as you saw tonight. We have many, many, many people that are going to come together to be a resource. But it is true, just a little advance notice, then we get everybody ready to be as support where we need support. So,
You'll have a lot of notice
Yeah.
to when the final report's coming out.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay. Item B, keyless entry purchase
Okay.
approval.
Last meeting, I'm going to amend my presentation from last meeting, and this will only be voting for the tech closets, so the IDF and the MDF closets.
So just to clarify, last time we brought you a potential recommendation to do the closets and the front offices.
Yes.
We have since studied that issue. We have dropped that recommendation, and we will no longer be doing those key entries to the front offices. There's still security from outside the building. If you enter the building, you will need to obviously use the entry locks that we have in place. But if you are already inside the building and you need to get to that front office, you will be able to get to that front office just as we're doing right now. So that's where this is amended.
Okay. Okay, there is a motion.
I can read that if you'd
Mary,
like.
please.
Move to approve the keyless entry system from Eagle Security for the total amount of $159,417 as presented revised, right? Because it's revised from earlier presented.
Revised is fine.
Okay.
Is there support? Support, Amanda. Any discussion? I want to make sure that we are identifying the facilities that those are at so that there is no, to the community.
All campuses across the district where the technology items are. That allows, it's our tech closets. This will allow our district technology employees who do not necessarily have the keys to get everywhere, access to get what they need to. It also controls who's able to be in there. And we have a technology person who's kind of our security technology person who can control that access as well.
Okay. Anybody else with any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11, unscheduled public comment. Thank you. I'll let you set that up.
She's ready.
You ready? Yep. Andrea Jones?
Okay, I have a couple topics. First of all, I want to say thank you for the SEL programs and the updates on those. I think those are needed in our community. I especially appreciate the events that we've added for the summertime to engage the children and the adults. So I did want to say thank you for that. I did want to get some clarification on when the vote would be taking place about the gun safes. I may be incorrect, but I thought it was June 23rd, but I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. So if someone could contact me or answer that question, I would like to know. As far as the vote goes, I feel like maybe we need to at least table that until our new president is elected so that we have input from whoever that person might be as well. I think that's a fair ask for the community. That person's going to be here for a while, and I think it's important to include whoever that is, their input on that as well. Okay. For the guidepost report, yes, we do want it to be accurate. I very much appreciate Erin's comments about being prepared for that and acknowledging what that's going to feel like for a lot of people in this community. My concern with the drop date of that is if we're looking at after school starts, I'm just going to be honest with you, this report could be a very big deciding factor in whether people send their children back to Oxford Community Schools next year, depending on what's contained in that report, whether teachers want to stay. This is a huge report with life-altering information in it for people in this community. So I think it's very important that we get that before the start of the school year. Also, it'll be pushing right up on the anniversary. That's not really something I want to see happen to this community at that time. So whatever we can do, whatever Guidepost can do to get that report done as soon as possible is absolutely necessary. So that's all I have for tonight.
Kit Grabowski?
Recently, it became apparent to many parents that something called the genderbread person is being taught in our 9th grade health classes. Personally, I don't think that is any of y'all's business. Honestly, it is not scientifically based. The genderbread person was actually created by a comedian and artist. He has no scientific background whatsoever. His BA is in art and law. And it is all based off of gender ideology, which was actually written into a defined term in the 60s by a Dr. John Money, who only had one case study, a pair of twin boys, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of it, other than the fact that, one, due to a very botched circumcision, the family found Dr. Money when he was trying to prove the point that you could raise a boy as a girl his entire life and he would be totally normal. And all his papers for 25 years were considered to be golden. They were considered the information on gender identity. It was 100% a lie. The boys that were involved in the study were Brian and Bruce Raymer. Bruce was the one that had to live as a girl. They did the sex changes, everything, when he was about 1.5 years old. Changed him to a girl instantly. When they got to be 10 years old, they said, we're not going to see Dr. Money anymore. The boys categorically refused, or the children categorically refused. 14 years of age, Bruce, who is now Brenda, found out, because he was having these strong desires and romantic feelings for girls, the new psychologists and psychiatrists that were dealing with them turned around and said, you have to tell them everything. Everything. From the moment he was told, Brenda became David. He just did not take his birth name because he felt like he'd been fighting a giant his entire life. You can read all about this in the case of I believe it is called the John Jane or John Joan case. It is very disturbing. It is from a man who was mentally disturbed himself and probably should never have been with kids. But the gender ideology, it is an idea. It is a theory. It is not science-based, and it has no business being taught in our schools per the state school laws.
Tom Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Three things that I'd like the new board members and new superintendent to think about and consider. First, in the spring of 2022, 7 board members believed that we were being deceived and not being told the truth. 7-0. In May, President D'Alessandro and I were on a phone talking with someone from the prosecutor's office, finding out that we were lied to. 7-0. We voted within a week to hire Varnum. 7-0. We voted to hire Guidepost and put them to work. In July, council went behind the board's back and went against the legal vote of elected officials and told union representation and attorneys not to participate in the Guidepost investigation. 7-0. We were all upset. 7-0. We found out about the 8,400 policies and procedures. 7-0. We called for a closed session meeting in September. We came out 5-2. 2 resigned. Do you know why yet? Have you asked the right questions? How can you do an independent report and have it be completely transparent when you don't even know all the information? A new superintendent hasn't even talked to me, and I was the board president when the shooting took place and was up to the day I resigned. Guidepost. I am so glad Andy was here. Do you know what surprised me? He just told you the same thing he told me in August of 2022. All he needed to do was about 20 key interviews and needed some documents. And almost a year later, you haven't given it to them? They don't have it? You haven't gotten it done? We wanted to have this report done before the anniversary of the shooting. And now we're talking about maybe the fall? The only reason you don't have a report is because they don't have the information. He just told you. I just want to make it clear. I'm just shocked that it's the same thing they told me in August when I asked them, because of the delay, because of the people not interviewing, how far back are we? Can we get this thing back on track? And their answer to me was, as long as we get the documents we need and as long as we get the interviews we need. Last thing, please consider voting on removing the restriction of attorney-client privilege in closed session, which is supposed to protect us, not the attorneys. When 90% of what we did was in closed session, how can you do an independent review if you don't know what happened in them? Thank you.
Sean Wilson.
Hello, I am Sean Wilson. Thank you first for this opportunity to speak. I'm a member of the class of 2024 at Oxford High School. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the gun safes and my personal response when I heard about them. So when I was first made aware of that proposal at the last meeting, I cried and I was shocked and my jaw dropped and I was speechless. And I cried because this responsive act is an indication of, I feel, giving up, and of accepting the fact that there will be guns brought into our schools, and embracing that fact by emulating a war zone, a crossfire occupied by students fleeing for their lives. Students who and I know of many, are not comfortable with these advanced weapons in the building. There is never a guarantee that these weapons won't end up in the wrong hands. In fact, this has occurred before. In 2019, 2 students broke into a school in Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee, and stole an AR-15 rifle from an SRO's office. How can we focus on schoolwork in an educational environment, knowing at any moment we may hear semi-automatic fire outside our classroom doors? As a sophomore at the time of the shooting, I struggled in returning to learning. Any noise in the hallway or intrusive thought about how someone may have brought a weapon into the school completely interrupted my focus. Now, going into my senior year, I'm finally able to go through a lesson, having faith that the evolved system already in place at our entry doors has caught any potential weapons people may have attempted to introduce into our learning environment. If this motion carries, I will have lost that comfort. I will know always that there are at least 2 long guns in my school, weapons far more advanced than that used by the Oxford shooter, and one that can cause fatal wounds to children and staff with one wrong movement of a finger in a high-pressure situation. Speaking of, these safes are cited as effective because they do not require fine motor skills to unlock, which are evidently lost in an active shooter event. But according to this motion, a long rifle is acceptable to be handled by the same officers. I urge you to think about this contradiction. The statement that the safe will save time has little supporting evidence, and resource officers are at many different locations in the building throughout the course of the day, and any trip to one of these safes is adding time to a response. To me, while students run away, those who have chosen to endure hours of training to hold the SRO position should run towards looking to rapidly neutralize the threat with any resources presently available. Furthermore, shooters often give up on their own accord, flee the scene, die by suicide, or are subdued, either by a bystander or law enforcement. And adding more guns into this equation will increase the number of bullets fired in a restrained area occupied by students and staff. Now, certain different scenarios can be argued all day, but we shouldn't even be having this conversation. As I said before, this is a responsive act where we should be focused on prevention. And before you call this preventative, unfortunately, shooters are determined. A safe in this school will only change that person's target. No amount of weaponization can protect every possible location, and instead we should be investing in mental health support for students and more effective threat assessment. We must foster a positive environment within the school and a positive attitude toward the school within the community. Even if law enforcement argues that these safes may be effective, this cannot drown out the opinions, many obviously dissenting, of parents and students like myself. These institutions are places to flourish as young people, and we demand a say in how they operate. This comes from what the students you represent have experienced and how we truly feel. And if you hold any value to these opinions, you cannot let this proposal move forward. Thank you.
Corey Bailey.
Good evening. December 2022, I came before this board, or actually sent emails to this board, asking to address the board and ask that they lift Tom and I from the open meetings restrictions, and I was met with a roadblock. I was denied and not even allowed to speak. January 2023, I asked again, and I know that for 3 of you, that was your very first meeting, but now that you have sat through many closed session meetings, and I can only assume that you have been brought up to speed and have learned everything that Tom and I have learned, I'm asking again. Tom and I sat through countless hours of deposition saying, yes, we know the truth, yes, we know the facts, but we're restricted to silence. You heard Guidepost talk about the roadblocks that they're still facing. We couldn't be any help to Guidepost for the same reasons. We were a roadblock to them, because you are a roadblock to us. I'm asking again that you allow Tom and I the opportunity to present our request, you discuss it in public, and vote either to lift this restriction and allow us to speak truthfully and completely to both Guidepost and future depositions, or vote no, forcing us to continue hiding the truth. We teach our kids, if you know something or see something, say something. I'm asking you as a board to set the same example. And if you new board members are not brought up to speed after sitting through countless closed session meetings, remember that it takes 5 votes to go into closed session, and 3 can stop it.
George?
I'll be brief and make up some of the time that I went over the last couple times that I spoke. And what I have to say is very simple. With the end of the school year, I wanted to thank our amazing teachers in the district. I think I'm preaching to the choir and to many of the parents in the community that might be listening, but I just thought with the end of the school year, I wanted to express myself publicly. If you'll bear with me for a second, I'm a proud father of a 2023 graduate and rising junior at the high school. And I have to say that throughout our 10 years here, I don't think that they had a bad teacher all the way through. They had their favorites, but they were all outstanding. So the standard of excellence, the expectation, every step of the way, was really impressive and inspiring to me as I went to curriculum nights and parent-teacher conferences. The goals that they set for each grade and for the methodology for achieving their goals was really something. And I also have to say that the International Baccalaureate program is really special to the district. I think my daughter worked very hard to be successful. She was a very dedicated student, but I don't know if she could have gotten where she is today because of the International Baccalaureate program and all that it offers. So I'm just very grateful as I look back to in the time that that my daughter had, my son continues to have throughout their experiences with the district. So just wanted to express my gratitude for the amazing teachers that we have here as we go into the summer. And Dan, thank you for your service the last 10 years and work in this community. I wish you the best in whatever life offers.
Thank you, George.
Thanks.
Okay, we have some scheduled activities throughout the rest of this month and into July and August. Any administrative clarifications? Final board comments, anybody? No? No? Okay.
Oh, actually, sorry. I do want to say, thank you, thanks, George, for the commendations for our teachers. We have amazing staff, we have amazing teachers and supports, and central office staff who keep us all going. Thank you, and congratulations to all of our retirees, and thank you so much to them for the time that they've dedicated to the district. One of the folks I was talking to tonight had been a bus driver for almost 25 years. It's amazing the care that everybody takes with their students here in Oxford. So thank you very much for all that.
Okay. There is a motion to go into closed session. Would somebody like to read that?
Move to meet in closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 8A, to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of an employee, the Section 8H, to consider material exempt from disclosure, specifically material protected by the attorney-client privilege, legal written opinion.
Is there support? Support Mary? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Whitney. Yes. Trustee Summers.
Yes.
Trustee McDonough.
No.
Treasurer Hanser.
Yes.
Secretary Reese, yes. Vice President Schaefer.
Yes.
President D'Alessandro.
Yes.